Last couple days in the NFL have been crazy. You've got Aaron Rodgers re-signing with the Packers, Russell Wilson getting traded to the Broncos, and today Carson Wentz going to the Commanders. The Commanders. Oof. I don't think I'll ever get used to that name, and it's terrible, but they do them. Aaron Rodgers, though, just if reports are correct, it's a $200 million contract over the next 4 years. That's $50 million a season. And yes, I did that math in my head. Is it a wise investment, though? I'm not going to make many fans with Packers fans here. I think this is a contract extension that they're going to regret over the next few years. I personally believe there are going to be players that they are not going to be able to retain that they would have otherwise been able to. Guys that are like a Rashawn Gary and A.J. Dillon, and some guys they currently have under contract with Alan Lazard and Davante Adams. Davante Adams is only under contract because he's a franchise tag, and Alan Lazard is a restricted free agent. So, I mean, he wasn't a free agent. It was either play for the Packers or play for nobody. They're going to eventually have to pay these two guys, and that's on top of guys that are going to be free agents, as I mentioned before, Rashawn Gary, A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones in a few years. Then you've got offensive linemen like John Runyon, and there's going to be just guys that maybe on the surface they don't look like they are key players on the team, but they bring depth, they bring veteran leadership and presence that you just are not going to be able to replace. One guy, for example, that may not seem like a huge deal, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. As of right now, he's not signed, and I will be surprised if they actually are able to sign him at this point. On the surface, it doesn't look like it would be a major loss, but Aaron Rodgers likes to play with players he trusts. He's shown over the course of his career, he doesn't really like to, especially at this point in his career, he doesn't like to break in young receivers. And it's I don't blame him. I'm not going to just say, makes him a bad quarterback. It just, most quarterbacks like to play with guys they can trust. It makes sense. And the Packers don't have a really good history at getting good young receivers in there. I mean, Equinemius St. Brown should have been a better receiver than he was, at least on the surface when you looked at when he came out of Notre Dame. He just hasn't developed. And so it obviously, with bringing back Randall Cobb, he wanted to play with players he trusts. He trusted Valdez-Scantling. Now you're going to, if you don't re-sign him, which again I don't think they will, how do you replace that production? And it's also wide receiver depth. What happens if Davante Adams or Lazard get hurt this year? You're going to have limit now the players that you can bring in to replace him. So again, could be wrong. If the Packers win a championship, obviously I'm wrong about this, but historically speaking, and I just looked probably over the last 10, 15 years, not one team has won the Super Bowl with the highest paid quarterback in the league. I think you've got to go back to 1994 when the 49ers won it with Steve Young, where the highest paid quarterback walked away with the Super Bowl. So history is not on the Packers side on this one. Now, is it coincidence? Is it these guys just, the timing of it, that they signed these big contracts and somebody leapfrogged them a couple years later when they won the Super Bowl? It could be coincidence, but honestly, it's too long a period for it to be just coincidence. Tom Brady, on the other hand, and a lot of people get angry with me when I bring up Tom Brady in this argument, he would take less money so teams could build around him, and it worked. I mean, it's hard to argue. He won a ton of championships. And now, granted, I understand not everybody has the same motivations as Tom Brady did. Tom Brady wanted championships, so he did what he had to do to win them. A lot of other players, they want to make as much money as they can in their short amount of time they have in the NFL. And, they really, in a grand scheme of things, an NFL player's career really is fairly short. Once they retire, they're not going to make even nearly the money they made in the NFL unless you get lucky like Tony Romo did. That you can't count on that. But the point is, I think that this contract signed by Rodgers, um, if the reports are true and it's this large, is going to be a problem for the Packers going forward. And again, the devil won't be in the details when it's actually released, but on the surface, it could be a big problem. I mean, look, the Broncos have just acquired Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson's deal with the Seahawks, um, I believe, caused some of the problems that the Seahawks are currently dealing with. They obviously weren't able to keep restocking, especially in free agency, because they just didn't have the amount of money that they would have normally had with the kind of money they were paying Russell Wilson. And it wasn't just Russell Wilson. You've got other guys on the team that were commanding big money. But that's the problem when you've got a lot of talent is everybody wants their piece of the pie, and there's only so much pie to go around. So I'm again, going back to the Tom Brady argument, I'm just surprised more quarterbacks just don't take a little bit less so they get a little bit more with the success of the franchise. Um, both scenarios are going to be very, very interesting to keep an eye on. Can the Broncos build around Russell Wilson? He's still young enough; you can definitely build around him, but it's going to be interesting to see. And then you got Washington, who have acquired Carson Wentz. Um, I don't know how much of an upgrade this is over what they currently have. Um, Time will tell on that one, obviously. But Wentz hasn't shown me anything over the course of his career that is he better than Taylor Heineke, and I don't know if he is. Um, Again, I think Washington's going to be a very interesting place to watch as well. They're kind of a mess of a franchise, so history's not on their side. Um, but all of these quarterback shiftings and dealings, um, Arizona, Kyler Murray, who is currently not happy with his contract, and he's by all accounts, yes, he is going to get a very large contract extension. Gentleman I watch um, who runs a website or a YouTube channel called the Cardinal Rule, has speculated that Kyler Murray is going to make $45 million contract extension, or roughly around there, based off the market value. I believe he's right. I think that probably is about accurate. Um, Again, probably won't make many Cardinal fans happy with what I'm about to say, but I don't think Arizona should do it. I really don't. I know people say, well, you've got to pay your franchise quarterback. And I agree with that. But is Kyler Murray really a franchise quarterback? I would argue he's not. I hate to say it, but he's a dynamic talent. Don't get me wrong, but you're talking a franchise quarterback who's what 5'8", 5'9". Um, I just yeah, Russell Wilson's a short guy himself. I mean, relatively speaking, with quarterbacks, he's what 5'10". But there's a difference between the two. One is a very smart quarterback with regards to his height, while Kyler Murray, for the most part, has been successful because he's usually one of the more athletically gifted players on the field. In the NFL, that really changes pretty quickly. Um, and I think Kyler Murray is starting to run into this problem where defensive coordinators are starting to figure out how to defend a player like Kyler Murray. Um, and again, and I will admittedly say I have got a very small sample of Kyler Murray games. I don't see a whole lot where I live, but the games that I did see, I have some concerns. Obviously, the playoff game, that boneheaded decision of his, really just. I mean, I get it to some degree. He wanted to make something happen, but that's not how you do it. Um, but besides that, watching in the regular season, there are some other plays that just really have me concerned. At his height, instead of like being smart like Russell Wilson, finding your passing windows, he threw a lot off of his back foot to get it over his offensive lineman, where the ball was either tipped or usually picked off. At this stage in his career, it's concerning to watch him throwing off of his back foot the way he's doing it. Um, I can't. I would have a hard time as a franchise justifying 45 million a season for a guy that um, I just don't think he's going to be that franchise quarterback. I know, again, I could be wrong on this one. Again, I mean, time will tell. Um, and especially if the Cardinals, I mean, odds are they're going to sign Kyler Murray. He is a um, dynamic talent, and but we'll see. I just boy, it's going to be interesting to see, and especially since you've got guys that are coming to the NFL draft this year that historically there's going to be at least be one or two guys that develop into great quarterbacks, if not at least solid, if not great quarterbacks. Um, Personally, I think, I mean, I'll get this into a later video, but I think there are at least one or two guys that might be worth picking, um, that you could that will be franchise style quarterbacks. Um, Again, I know it's a crapshoot, but boy, that's a lot of money to invest in a player that makes really bad decisions. To be honest with you, we'll see. I mean, but again, you pay a guy this kind of money, and it's going to hamstring what the franchise can do going forward. I mean, already the Cardinals have a problem with running backs. You add in a $45 million contract for Kyler Murray, it's going to mean that money, it's going to have to come from somebody, and other players are not going to be retained. And what the Cardinals currently have going right now, which looks good on the surface, um, they may they may regret a big contract as well, and over the next few years for Kyler Murray. And again, franchise quarterbacks will get paid. There's no disputing this, and the market has set the values of these guys. Um, but sometimes it's worth letting somebody else pay that player instead of you. So that's all I have to say on this. Thanks for watching, and this has been the DeSchwab Report.